Good morning, GDC. Welcome to the Audiokinetic Theater. It's a great honor for us to have created this space where our awesome community of Wwise users can come and present their stuff. So let's start right away with Stefan, audio director at Larian, who's gonna take us into an audio technical deep dive about Baldur's Gate, a small little video game. Maybe you've heard about it. So, Stefan?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Graham. Hi all of you. So first of all, hello fame game audio enthusiasts. I give you a quick introduction. I will tell you a little bit about the issues that I encountered by joining Larian and what I needed to do, because it's a kind of funny story. Maybe some of you already watched Wise Up on Air with Damien. It's out there at the moment, so there is a little bit more information about that. And then we go a little bit into some of the systems that I worked with and the workflows that we fixed it. So that's me. I'm Stefan. I used to work for Electronic Arts, Piranha Bytes, Ubisoft. Now for Larian, I worked for I think like 20, 25 different titles as an audio director. Baldur's Gate is on there. Anno 1800 was one of the games that I shipped. Risen 3, also RPG. Maybe you've played that. And then South Park Fractured But Whole with that guy over there. There's Nick, the audio director of South Park of the San Francisco studio, but he does not listen and doesn't care. So hi. So yeah, that's and a lot of other things from Avatar that recently got shipped, and Assassin's Creed Nexus. And Far Cry series, so there's a lot of other stuff as well, but those are the main ones. That was kind of my issue, because I was joining late to the party. I was really, really late, because I started at Larian at the end of 2022, November 2022, and then we needed to ship, so maybe you people know, at the September, or was it August? I can't remember now. It was a long year. We shipped August, September 2023, so I just had a few months to get that done. I had just a few months to get it done, and basically take over the audio direction, take over the whole structure, and taking care of the mix. Because when I arrived, a lot of people were in that team. So I had a great team with my team members being in Quebec, team members being in Dublin studio, and team members being in Guildford. Plus we had additional remote positions all over the place on different places from Austria, Germany. So we had at the peak of the production, where we had one audio programmer, 3 technical sound designers, 12 sound designers, and 15 cinematic sound designers at a given point in time at the end, because we shipped a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff. So we had over 2 million words, which is like over 3 times all 3 Lord of the Rings together. Is our official statement to that. So it's a lot. All of that recorded, mocapped. It's really a lot of stuff. We had 170 plus hours of cinematics, and I'm not talking automated cinematics. I'm talking 170 hours of cinematics that needed to be audio put on by hand in a lot of cases. We have 700 plus player spells and actions. We have 400 plus creature spells and actions. We have dozens of places and environments. So if you played the game or seen a video about it, you will always find new places and different environments. You can do anything, because that is the whole thing of Larian and about BG3. It's all about choice. You can do and go anywhere and do anything at any given point in time and solve it your own way, basically. And that is not using the typical Perl system of storytelling, going back to the story point where everybody joins up again. It's a tree, and it just gets massive. So there are so many solutions to solve the game or play the game, and we have a lot of different endings. So several hours of music from Bobby, our in-house composer, Borislav. So a lot of content. So basically, I joined the game 9 months before we needed to ship it. There was no audio director before me. It was done by leads and by the team. So I had a really huge amount of stuff that I needed to bring into a good mix, into finalizing it. So the ideas about that is basically, how can I do that? And no, I show you a little bit of the game first, just for the people who haven't seen it or played it.
Broken. Must have been here a while.
You think it's dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous. Zoru was right. Yellow as a toad, and twice as ugly.
The thing's dangerous. Leave it for the goblins to kill.
Your skull pounds in response to the prisoner's white-hot stare. Her lips don't move, yet you hear her voice.
Get rid of them. Holy hells! Another one.
Blades high, Dimessa. Dimessa! Watch out! I'm ready. Be quick. Dimessa, no!
Spasm grips your chest. Your strength falters. An emptiness grows within you, Paladin. Something has been lost.
Broken your oath, Paladin. At the close of day, I will be waiting for you. We have much to discuss.
Okay, good. So, yeah, that's the game. That's for people who haven't played it. And as said, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of combat. So, the solution to my job, not my problem, my job, I'm happy to do that, is that I need to define a strategy how to get this done, because there is now this pile of millions of files in front of us. There is a big game with a lot of situations that you cannot predetermine in any form or way. So there's a lot of stuff going on. How do we fix that, and how do we make a good mix out of that? So the tactics that I came up with is two-folded mostly. There is more to it, but for this presentation, those are the two things that I chose. There is about workflows, because I think doing your job in a certain way and helping your team doing it in a certain way helps them to perform and do stuff in a good way. And tools and techniques. How can we fix this now, and how can we work with that amount of files that get played simultaneously? Basically, for the workflow, It's all about a few ideas that we did. And if you want to listen to a more detailed description, there's the Wwise up on air, where Matthias and we talk a little bit about the details on how we did that. I will tell you a little bit now. One of the most important things, first and foremost, was like, I'm living in Düsseldorf, German guy living in Düsseldorf. Then we have, I took two of my team members, the most senior people in the team, Robert in Quebec and Matthias in Vancouver. So the three of us need to mix the game on a daily basis, which is hard because commuting time is bad and, so basically we needed to find a solution for that. Cool thing is we do have an internal streaming service like Twitch, but just for us internally, so we can really nicely stream us playing the game and having feedback sessions with other people, which is an awesome possibility to have. And that was helping us a lot because we set it up in a way that Robert, our sound designer Robert in Quebec, was playing the game in the studio. He was streaming it over to all of us. I was listening to it in Düsseldorf. I had my Dolby Atmos set up in Düsseldorf. He had his. We can listen in the stream to 5.1, but at least the 5.1 stream. And in Vancouver, the same is true for Matthias in Vancouver. He was sitting there with Wwise open, connected to the PC in Quebec, and live mixing. Basically, we had mixing session on a daily basis for 2 hours in the short time span that is basically overlapping, where we really can work together. And we were mixing the game, sitting together, finding topics, finding issues, and then this is basically this remote mixing session. So really think about outside of the box of you don't need to sit there alone and mix. You don't need to sit in a studio. It's always nice to sit in a studio. It always improves a lot of things to have this. But for the bulk of it, when you do a big game, you need to think outside of the box. You cannot book the biggest Dolby Atmos stage for 2 years because that would every boss of every company would be like, nope, that's not going to happen. So you need to find solutions for that. You have a studio mixing session, which we did afterwards at Molinar in London. So we were sitting together in the studio. We booked a Dolby Atmos stage. We mixed there. And here we also used our studios and the setup of my team because we had mixing sessions in London the whole day until the evening until 5. At 5 o'clock, we had a handover to Robert in Quebec. So we could we built a list of tasks in Jira, like that's the stuff, fix that. Can you do this in a bulk edit, blah, blah, blah. All of the stuff that we could not fix in 3 minutes or less, basically. And we handed it over. The next morning, we had an automated script already at 6 in the morning, getting the new Pathos data so that when we came into the studio at 10, 9, 10, maybe 10, then we were right back to mixing because the stuff was already working. Just booting it up, continue working. The daily feedback sessions were important. The 24-hour circle in this cycle, that's the cool thing about having studios in Europe, North America, APAC. So because we have also a studio in Kuala Lumpur who could do QA. Because for me, testing is a super important part and you need to have scheduled proper testing. So that's in a nutshell what you could listen to on the Wwise Up on Air thing. Now more about the tools and techniques, because this presentation is a little bit more about the technology that we used and some of the tools that we did. So first and foremost, one thing that was a big decision on my end, I came in and after, I think like in spring 2023, I decided, okay, we need to do a Wwise update. I want to facilitate the possibilities of 3D audio on Tempest, PlayStation 5, on Dolby Atmos for all of the other devices, and also make it possible for every user with a headphone and buying the Dolby Atmos plugin or the Windows Sonic, whatever you want to use, it's up to you. Supporting the endpoint in a 3D audio manner, basically. So we came to the point where we said, okay, let's cut it. Let's get rid of the complete bus structure. We were discussing that for quite some time. Can you imagine how terrifying it was looking at this huge project, roughly 6 months before shipping, and like, okay, we're going to completely nuke that and start from scratch with the mixing because it will improve our workflows and give us better possibilities one of the most important topics was gives us better possibilities to have a more adaptive mixing going on later on, and that was the crucial point for me. So we started with 3D audio. So we had the categorization was that we wanted to have it logical and comprehensive, which means we needed to think about all of the stuff that we had and how it could work together, and in which part of the 3D audio hierarchy we want to have it. And of course, the 3D audio considerations that Wwise handing over to you now with the pass-through mix, the main mix, and the audio objects. Basically, if you ever looked at this flowchart, you maybe have seen that. That's basically things you need to think about and come up with some solutions. So basically, we knew there is a master, and there are tons of different things, from spells, combat, platforms, narrator dialogue, creatures, and so on. And now we need to reroute this through a completely different architecture in a completely different way, which also made us separate and rethink the way we used the audio mixer hierarchy and the mixer hierarchy. So this is now, because I'm a strong supporter of not using them in parallel, but using them for different purposes in a different way, of course. So therefore, the big question was, how do we do that? And we came up with this one. So pretty straightforward. So non-position sounds in processing through pass-through, of course. This is the ambience. This is interfaces, music, processed sounds, some videos and some voices where we really knew we need to have a discrete channel or discrete speaker, like our narrator that you hear normally when you play the game. It's this female voice is like telling you what's going on, it's a D&D game. It's basically the dungeon master. And if you ever played it in Dolby Atmos, it's only in the top speakers because it's a tabletop game and they're talking down to the table where stuff going on. So we use that, and it's really cool. It gives you a lot of room when you have the mix, and it makes it different, and it explains and plays with the possibilities. So stuff like that. The pass-through is cool. Then we had the objects, any cinematics, combat-related sounds that needed to be 3D positioned. We ended up with a lot of the cinema. So we had the possibility to decide upon objects in the cinematics to say that's a 3D audio object, so that we still continue the mix of 3D audio object mixed in cinematics, which was important to me. We have the combat, of course. We have creatures, custom sounds, music, all of that jazz via objects. And then we had anything else in the main mix, which is basically your regular mix, only going to a 7.1.4 bed in that case, basically. And we had all of the other things going there. They are still positioned, of course, still surround sound, but they do not have this additional high quality HRTF of the objects, basically. So that's the idea. And this is how we did the rework. We locked down Perfos for 2 days. We did a big plan. We had like everything sorted. We had flowcharts. We noted down how we want to do that, and then we executed it basically within one night. We did all of that, and on the next day you could boot up the game again, and it was mixed because we had scripts prepared to rework all of those structures. We did not do this by hand, of course. We did all of that script-based, so that was helping a lot. Then we had, this helped us to create a new mixing architecture that gives us the possibility to have a more sophisticated adaptive mixing basically going on. So when you look at the spell, we have the following phases. So there's the start point, we have a prepare phase, we have a loop, we have a cast, and we have an impact. So those are the phases of every spell. So you can like just have it in hand and then stand there, decide where to fire, and then you have the cast and the explosion, basically. Or whatever happens in that spell. So those are unique. The cast and the impact are unique. They're all about this specific spell. For the prepare phase, we had a systemic solution, which is based on the intents of that spell, of the type of that spell, and the class that you're playing at the moment. All of that together decided upon how you cast those spells and how it sounds when you have them in hand, running around, and then when you fire them up. Thinking about that, this is how that sounds. There you go. So yeah, fun stuff with spells. The point is, that is just implementation. That's just the system, how we fire that up. Now the question is, how do you get, we had the numbers above 1,000 spells for like 700 plus 400, so 1,100 spells for player, character, and for creatures and for enemies. So 1,100 of those, and some of them in different intensity levels as well. So now you're ending up with a big pile of them. So how do you mix those in a way that they are treated in the same manner, based up on a lot of different sound designers working on those, and not having like a mix setup and a changed mix setup, basically. So the problem here is we have frequency imbalances in those spells. First and foremost, of course, we went back, and one of the things was like remixing, setting all of the loudness values for all of the spells and for all of the content in a big 1 to 2 week team effort where we discussed how we mixed them down and then re-exported them in a manner that they're already fixed. Because I'm a big believer in a mix is not done by a mastering plugin. A mix is done by a mix, by doing it properly. So therefore, one of the first things that I did was getting rid of the mastering plugin that was compressing a lot of stuff and just made it like work, but not sound that good. So we got rid of that. So we did the whole mix without any mastering at all. And then we found a mix that really worked out with all of the possibilities based on certain loudness standards and certain ranges, you know the drill. And therefore, we ended up with, hey, there is still some of those spells, we cannot go back and redo them. We had a development phase of 6 years. Some of the people doing those spells are not even in the company anymore. Like there was really some, how do we do that? So we had some spells that were too bassy, we had some that were too bright. How do we fix it? Of course, you go in there and you do ducking. You always start with some kind of ducking or automation in volume. But the point is, you're not having an issue with volume. That's not the point. You're having an issue with frequencies. So therefore, you need to do something different. So we wanted to do frequency-based ducking, which is what I wanted to have, because I had this in prior games as well. And I was like, okay, that's the stuff that we want to do. So we were looking into we still have the volume possibilities, and we have the possibility of ducking, and we use it, but we now use it very, very sparsely, just a little bit, sometimes when it is needed. It's not about, we are not doing EDM. So it's not about the sucking bass. It's about a nice mix that has the room. And it's all about, my teacher back then always called it frequency juggling. It's basically all about give the place in the mix for certain things how you want, and keep it clear and consistent for all of them. So basically, that's something that you nicely can do in a linear media. In a game, it's always tricky because you don't know what's going on in the background, and maybe you would have that range now to go full in, but sometimes you don't. So it's all about a more interactive system. So we had the sidechain structure. It's simplified here. So we have a master system out. It is you feed it by our core chain, and we had a side chain. The side chain is only for metering. It's not going into the master actually. The core chain is basically fed by is also for dynamic FX that we want to use, exactly what we wanted to do, but now based on frequencies. So we can do this in the parent audio bus. So basically we had in the mixer hierarchy a parent audio bus for certain things. But we also had a child audio bus, basically a duplication of those buses, because this is for, you need to have this child so you don't have a feedback loop. You cannot ask the parent bus about their frequency and then feed in a signal that changes the frequency and then ask about the frequency, because then you're in a feedback loop. We don't want that. So therefore, this is now our actor mixer hierarchy over there. The laser pointer doesn't do the trick. This is the actor mixer hierarchy over there. This is like still, certain spells, Eldritch Blast and all of that stuff. It is done in the actor mixer hierarchy. This is where all of the things and the spells live. But then they're going to this child bus in the mixer hierarchy. In the mixer hierarchy, we have an aux send, and we send it to this aux bus. The point is, we use in this aux bus, we use an EQ, and we use a meter. That meter we're just using for creating an RTPC because the output of that meter can be used and transferred into an RTPC value. So we use the RTPC value instead of the meter. And then this goes, as I already said, to nothing. It goes to the chain, and then over up there where where it's crossed out, it is at minus 96, and there is an additional plugin that we have in there that is also at minus. So absolutely making sure that this is not going into the mix. It's not about audio, it's about the system, it's about reading out the values. Then we have the RTPC. And this RTPC can now be used and goes to the parent bus, where we then do the altering of the stuff. So we use an harmonizer sometimes or an EQ to manipulate the bands with this RTPC value. This means we read out what's going on. Based on the EQ, we define what we want to read out here, basically which frequency. That creates a different meter outcome. The meter outcome becomes an RTPC. The RTPC goes to the parent bus and can be used in all of those dynamic FX or in something like the harmonizer, for example. Because the EQ is the cool thing, we can just go there and say, okay, certain frequencies will get ducked or enhanced. And the harmonizer is there for some spells that lacked a little bit of high end or a little bit of bass. So we went in there, we basically searched for the main frequencies of that spell and then added via the harmonizer those high frequency and spells. So we enriched via the harmonizer those spells so that they're on the same level in general. This is an example for the band-specific compression via EQ. Here you see the... Yep, and that's another example where we use the harmonizer, and the harmonizer is on the loop at the moment. Basically, this looping sound was very mid-ranged, and for us, the music lives mainly in the mid-range. Of course, it has higher lows, but there is the communication with the music is mainly in the mid-range. So we wanted to have those spells and those going off in the highs and in the lows a little bit more. Basically, we built a little bit of a notch in the middle to make the music shine, and having this additional powerful stuff going on in the highs and in the lows. Yep, and that throws me back to tactics. So to get something like my issue solved, like my job solved, going there, getting handed over one of the bigger games that I've worked on, and I worked on a lot of asset monsters with a lot of stuff. It's always RPG or different things, but that was a really big one. And then get it over and like, hey, here, mix it. We need to have a cool mix now. You have 9 months. Go. The workflow is important. You need to build up proper workflows with your team. You need to sit down and you come up with solutions that are not always just the straightforward. We have those 2 weeks in the end of the production where we do the mix, because that will not cut it. You need to go systemic in a lot of ways. And if you go systemic, you need to have the right tools and techniques and understand how to use them, facilitate your engine right. So in this case, 3D audio was helping us with a lot of that, because changing over to 3D audio within basically just 3-4 weeks preparation, basically was a thing that you... Ooh, that's really loud. Helps you a lot with the tools and techniques and building up systems that are systemic to finalize a game of that size and making the mix systemic. And the 3D audio stuff, this was the point where I was at. The 3D audio stuff helps you to achieve a generalized mix that you do not need to alter anymore. And it basically is one size fits all kind of situation. And it really worked out. I mean, there were a few things that we did, and there is, when you go to the Wwise up on there is what I call endpoint specific situations. So we had some music that we mixed differently for stereo and surround and worked on differently, but it's not a standard thing. It's not something that we do all the time. Normally you have the 7.1.4 bed, you have the 3D objects, and you have the pass-through, and then you just hand it out, and the downmix sounds very good, actually, and works for a lot of platforms, places, and endpoint situations. All of this together brings me to the point, have you any additional questions? Because that was what I wanted to talk about. Thank you.